Hello and welcome to Mark's Woodworking Challenges. Today's video is the first Powertool challenge. And by way of background, last fall I was setting up to use my drill press. I needed a perfectly perpendicular hole, and it took me about a half an hour to set up to do that because my drill press table was not up to the task. It wasn't flat, the fence wasn't square. And then it hit me that all the fixtures I use with my power tools, they're all 20 years old, and they're either worn out or aged, or they weren't built that well in the first place. So I decided for a New Year's resolution for 2022, I was going to rebuild and replace all of the fixtures on my power tools. And so today is the first in that series of videos, and it will feature my new table saw sled. And so we'll first take a look at the old one and then the one that replaced it, and then we'll wrap it up. Alright then, let's get to it. Okay, here's Exhibit A in the motivation for replacing all my power tool fixtures. This is the old table saw sled. So just a quick rundown. You can see that all the veneer on the plywood has come loose, come off, delaminated. Even the plies are delaminating some. Another problem is that the area where the blade goes through here is, sort of chewed up. You like to have a nice tight fit here so that you don't splinter out as you cut the piece of wood. And so that was a problem. Another problem was when I started out, I was using this with a 1/8 inch blade, and now I've almost exclusively used thin kerf blades. So the slot here is too wide, and we'll see why that's important in a minute. The runners weren't too bad. They had a little slop in them, but it was good. That would throw it off 90 degrees by a little bit, but probably still serviceable. However, it is true that I made this sled, I think, well before the 5-cut method of ensuring sled accuracy ever came about. So frankly, I don't know just how close to 90 degrees it really was. And then the last problem that I wanted to fix is it's pretty heavy. I did double 3/4 inch plywood laminations. The bottom is 3/4 of an inch. It's a heavy beast. And so definitely it was time for this thing to go. And here it is. This is the new table saw sled. So let's just take a quick tour of the features. So only one thin kerf sized slot now, and we'll strive to keep it that way. I'm going to make a different sled for using random cutting blades in the table saw, 1/8 inch or dado blades or whatnot. So it'll be a more utility thing with varying slot sizes, but for this one is going to be reserved for thin kerf saw blades. I commented how this area back here was eaten away in the other one. So what you can see is now I've made a removable plywood rectangle here, so that when that does get eaten away, I can replace it with a number of blanks that are already made and ready to go. So that should be an improvement. I have a 3/4 and 1/2 inch, so 1 1/4 inch plywood lamination on the back, and only a 3/4 inch on the front, and only a 1/2 inch Baltic birch on the bottom. And so it is definitely significantly lighter than the other one, so I'm happy about that. Trying something new here. These are polyethylene runners made by a company called Hatsby. That's an experiment. When these things come, let me just give a little rundown. They fit the slot in the table saw perfectly. They are, however, a little more difficult to work with, so the jury's still out. They're more flexible than say an oak runner. So you have to be definitely more careful when you install them. Another problem something I corrected a little bit is the chamfers in the holes were a little bit, the countersinks in the holes were just a little bit too small, so that when you installed the screws, you're not supposed to over tighten because it spreads out the polyethylene. So when I tightened the screws scratched against the bottom of the slot, which was, needless to say, annoying. So I had to enlarge the countersinks a little bit, and otherwise it was, and when I installed them, I found it pretty necessary to clamp a straight edge to the side while I was trying to screw it down. So a different beast. We'll see how well it works, how well we like it. And then the final thing is, I do have a blade guard here on the back. I actually didn't have one on the old sled, and frankly never had any real issues, but I thought while I was building the new deluxe table saw sled, I'd go ahead and put one in. Okay, what else can we say about this? I think that's about it. Let's put it on the table saw and try it out, or at least slide it back and forth a little bit. Okay, here it is on the table saw. Of course, it doesn't look much different, but it is as perfectly square as I can make it. I did the 5-cut method. I'm not going to show the 5-cut method. There's good videos out there. I'll leave a reference to them in the comments section. But I can certainly say that, holy cow, this is actually the last piece that I used the 5-cut method with. After being all finished and doing other things to the sled, and the very last thing I did was check it one more time with the 5-cut method, and it is pretty darned perfect as far as I can tell. Of course, this isn't as good as the 5-cut method. When I got done with the 5-cut method, both ends of the test piece were as near to identical as I could get with my calipers. So all's good in the squareness department. I recently watched a video where some guy advocated clamping stop blocks onto a sled, onto the back fence. I never liked that idea. When I used to do that, before I put in these T-tracks, I'd be here sitting, trying to clamp it, trying to keep it the same distance, and inevitably the thing would move just a just a hair. So now I can, you know, set up the ruler, put it in there. The nice thing about having one slot size here is that the edges of the slot are pretty good guides for where the saw blade is going to go. So you can line up your ruler with them. Say you want a you want a 5-inch cut there, or a 6-inch cut, and then you just tighten your stop block and you're good to go. So frankly, the other guy can clamp blocks on there if he wants, but I'm going to stick with this. My stop blocks have a little strip here that's been let into the main body of the block, so that the slip rides in the T-track and helps keep it from twisting when you're tightening it. Another thing to say about this kind of sled, you know, of course you want it higher in the middle so that when you raise the blade all the way up, you know, you don't cut off your fence, obviously. But the other thing that does for you is it kind of makes a natural handhold. And and your hands normally want to grip the sled here, and that keeps them, just keeps them well away from the blade, so that you're in a pretty good position when you're doing your cut. And so lastly, the Hatsby runners, you know, it slides pretty easy. You can slide with one hand. Still needs a little breaking in to do, so I'm going to just leave it as it is and see if it does break in over time. And if not, I may have to just take a little bit off the sides of those runners, but we'll wait and see on that. Okay, that concludes the tour of my new table saw sled. This has been the first Powertool challenge video. Let me know if you like it, if it's too much, too little. You know, I didn't show any construction details. I think that was just that would have been boring, I think. Also, I'm only referring to the 5-cut method for checking squareness. It's been covered already. There's no need for me to do it again. And so, like I say, let me know if you like it. Thanks for watching the first Powertool challenge video. If you like the channel, please consider subscribing. Hit the like button, and by all means, leave comments. And so that is it for us today on Mark's Woodworking Challenges. We'll see you next time.